this is Surya Saha, the author of The Digital Choices, and you're listening to the Insurtech Story podcast, the platform to spread knowledge on insurance innovation, digital disruption, and entrepreneurship. Our website, insurtechstory.com, and we are available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcast. Welcome to today's show, and we are going to discuss on the topic AI to API. Let's explore the latest advances in insurance. And for now, I'm delighted to welcome our guest, Shwetang Verma, who is the co-founder of Leo Capital, and he is an early stage venture investor in India and Southeast Asia. His focus areas are in fintech, insurtech, and health tech. So, Shwetang, welcome on board, and I'm truly excited to have you for this show. Would you like to tell a bit more on Leo Capital and how you intend to support the Indian and Southeast Asian tech ecosystem, especially in the fintech space?
Sure. Thanks, Surya. Very happy to be on the Insurtech Story podcast. I've really enjoyed your episodes. So thanks for having me.
Welcome,
At
welcome.
Leo, we are a yeah. Thanks. At Leo, we are a early stage venture capital fund. We invest between sort of 500,000 US dollars at the lower end to 2 million at the upper end on seed and pre-A rounds. We're a cross-sector fund, so we invest across sectors. But I have, of course, a deep interest in insurtech, and I'll come to that in a second why. And insurtech, in my opinion, is sort of sister to fintech, and of course includes health tech, so includes those two things as well. We made quite a few investments in this space in India and Southeast Asia. We have an investment in a company called Beto, which is the largest diabetes management platform in India now, and is expanding to Southeast Asia. We have an investment in a company called RIA, which is attempting to build a health insurance company play in India. And we have an investment in a company called Cover Genius, which is a pretty large embedded insurance API play operating at a global scale. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it's the first. It's very early in the insurtech game. It's a huge industry on the brink of sort of significant digital transformation, and we're excited to be able to back entrepreneurs who are reimagining the industry.
I think that is fantastic, and it's very forward looking, particularly for the startups who majorly get stuck at the investment stage, but have some remarkable ideas for innovation. So it's a very very good way to start, Shwetang, and I wish you all the very best for your venture. Um, so
Thanks.
I just want to move ahead with this discussion. So as we are particularly focusing on the AI and API bit of the insurtech space, how, according to you, particularly the artificial intelligence as a technology, is going to improve the insurance industry? And you can particularly give your views on uh, the regions within the Asia Pacific.
Yeah, it's a great question, Surya. So, I think a lot of people have likened AI to electricity, and I think it's a very helpful frame to think about it. Historically, before electricity, uh, factories were organized around energy sources like water wheels, etc. And it was only with electricity that they could rethink of themselves and modularize and have smaller energy sources all over, and you get to see the factories we see today. Similarly, I think AI is going to just transform the value chain for insurers. And today, if you think about it, insurance is a very sort of product and distribution led approach, right? So it is once a year cycle. That cycle is embedded in our understanding of insurance. You buy a product, it stays with you for a year, and you renew it. Some, of course, stay for much longer, but most products have a once a year kind of cycle with a huge focus on distribution. Now, AI will sort of break this mold, this thinking that we have that everything is to be once a year and has to be sort of insurance is sort of bought, not insurance is sold, not bought, will also change. And the way to think about it in my mind is sort of three uh, broad buckets. So operational effectiveness, within which I think of reducing costs and then improving the customer experience, and then finally reimagining what insurance stands for. So these three buckets play the role, of my mental framework as to how AI will impact insurance. So taking the first, right, reducing costs. This is where I think we can already see AI having an effect. These are things like making claims faster to process, increasing fraud detection, using much more data to do more prevention. And again, this is impacting all lines of business, and this is already in play today. You have, companies building IoT sensors that are driving data and leading to less claims. You have obviously companies like Shift doing great fraud analytics, and you have companies like Snapsheet, etc., doing great work on claims assessment and notifications. So this is the today. This is happening, and it is already creating a significant impact on the industry. What started happening now is customer delight. So using AI to understand contextually what I need, being able to give me a clearly defined offer. Something like what Raiffeisen Bank launched in Austria, which is on their bank app, you get a ski coverage the moment they recognize you're in a ski resort. So truly changing the way the customer experiences insurance, and why and how that applies to his life, and being able to just achieve it seamlessly. Small micro covers, but which are much more impactful than the large multi-year sales cycle efforts that have permeated the industry so far. Now, obviously, micro covers will not take all the industry, right? You still need endowment plans, etc. But over time, AI will help you personalize and sell at the point of need, in a way that changes distribution. So the agent of tomorrow is going to be very different from the agent of today, and that's a theme that is accelerating. And then finally, I think the theme that is a bit further out is just reimagining insurance in the world of autonomous cars, drones, different types of mobility, much more deeper sort of analytics on each individual. And that part I think is still unclear. We'll have to see what the business model of 2040 looks like. But there's enough happening in the next 20 years to keep venture capitalists like us very busy and keep incumbent insurers even more busy.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point made out there, Shwetang. You also mentioned something on the how AI is going to simplify the claims process, and since we are going to also touch upon a bit on the API part, this claims process in the insurance value chain, as you may already know, it's kind of the critical aspect that the insurance industry is actually struggling with, and how more of these startups are coming up to help support this particular value chain. There are more and more incumbents that are also looking forward in a partnership model to actually bring in some sort of a solution, not completely to eradicate the risk, but also to bring down to a certain level that will make help these companies save a lot of bucks there. So, the role of APIs in insurance as we see it, it's increasingly tapping into the power of this particular aspect of emerging tech to drive digital innovation and meet the demand of exceptional digital experiences. Now, APIs, as it allows insurers to create connectivity and facilitate interactions among applications or devices. You have also mentioned on the IoT part, by providing a standard way of doing things or a protocol to access data and so on and so forth. So what, according to you, or what's your view on API for insurance standpoint, and why it is becoming so important for an open insurance concept?
Yeah, it's a great question, Surya. So let me take a step back. And the way I look at API, they allow us to do two things. One is aggregation, and the other is communication. So perhaps taking the aggregation use case first, I've seen a lot of aggregation plays come up when there's a lot of vendors offering similar services. So, for instance, identity verification has been aggregated very well by Alloy. It's a US use case. Or payroll data has been aggregated by Argyle. And what this does is that it allows new experiences to be created, because at the front end, I don't have to worry about maintaining relationship with just one vendor, and then having to add another vendor when another customer comes who works with another vendor, etc., etc. So these aggregation APIs have sort of started coming up in the ecosystem in a big way. insurance is still underrepresented in the aggregation play. I can only think of Noyo, which is aggregating benefits platforms to allow employee benefit data to be consumed by a wide variety of platforms. So I think the first thing is to say that aggregation plays in insurance are going to be a very big deal as they start getting created. It is very hard to do because of the regulated nature of some of the data that will have to be aggregated, some of the rules and regulations around um, data transfer, data storage, etc. But it has been met in other areas like, as I said, identity, payroll, etc. So it will happen in insurance, and that's going to be exciting when that happens. So what from that's exciting from a venture perspective. From an insurer perspective, though, I would be worried because effectively then I become a commodity because people can build insurance experiences and then just swap out the carrier at the end based on a simple API call because somebody has aggregated, say, all the cyber insurance covers or aggregated all the health insurance covers, etc. So, as and when the aggregation plays takes off in insurance, it's something for the incumbents to watch and be sort of really mindful about as to how they and so how do they avoid end up being a commodity. The other one, of course, is communications, and insurance is notorious, right? A lot of insurance providers still use sort of the EDI, electronic data interchange format, which was created in the 1970s, and this is a file-based one-way communication format, right? So you batch process a file and you send it sort of one direction only, and the receiver can just receive the file, can send you nothing back. So APIs are a huge, the communication APIs are a huge advantage, a huge improvement on this. And we've started seeing much more use case of that across the region. At the moment, more on sort of this embedded insurance uh, covers, which are not aggregated plays at the moment. It's just sort of one company providing APIs to a digital front end and allowing certain products to be created. Started seeing some more in the process of course, claims, right? So that allows data from different parts of different data sources that allow you to verify or reject a claim with much more data than you would have relying on old sort of techniques. But ultimately, right, it's the infrastructure of the future. Cloud-based APIs just speed up communication, speed up data discovery, decision making, and it is the currency of the future. So insurers will have to learn to better package their products as APIs, and of course consume APIs and make use them to improve the customer experience on everything from distribution to claims to renewals, etc.
Right. So, just to follow up on this, do you think APIs can play a role of a key enabler to the digital transformation journey of the insurance industry among other emerging technologies?
So, in my opinion, it's the core infrastructure layer. If you don't have APIs, if you're not being able to expose your core systems to APIs, you will lose out. There's just no way that people will spend time and effort integrating with you in fixed code or EDI formats going forward. So it is I think it is an absolute table stakes now. Of course, I know that even now some life insurers, etc., struggle. I think the general insurers have become good, but it's almost a table stakes sort of toolkit use case in my opinion now. And I'm happy to see that most insurers actually have now upgraded their core systems or are migrating to core systems by like Duck Creek, etc., which come bundled with modern APIs. There is, of course, a long way to go, but this train has left the station, and if you haven't got a sort of well thought through API strategy by now, it's really the clock is ticking.
Right, absolutely. Of course, the modern vision of insurance IT relies on the API-led connectivity. I mean, that's sort of a notion that's going on within the industry at current times. And for insurers looking to achieve the speed or the agility or an enhanced digital capabilities which are necessary for optimizing customer experience. I think that's one of the key part of any sort of a digital transformation effort. I think API integrations are a must now. And as the digital ecosystem further shapes up, the leading careers of tomorrow will be the ones who leverage on this. I mean, especially in the open concept of insurance. Uh, yeah. So, you know, and but
Yeah,
one
I agree. I mean, I think, sorry, yeah, just,
yeah, go ahead.
APIs are really important to participate in ecosystems that are emerging, right? The health ecosystem, the mobility ecosystem. If you don't have an API strategy and an ability to bring in the data, put it in a data lake, analyze it, act on it, then you will be removed from these ecosystems. People, the other ecosystem providers will want to work with somebody who is as data savvy and as interconnected as they are. So that's the benchmark you have to solve for as an insurer.
Right, absolutely. With every remarkable innovation, every good ideas, there are always some underlying challenges. So, how do you see, you know, or rather, according to you, what are the top five key challenges for API integration in insurance as of at present, if I may say so?
I think I don't know if I have five top of my head, Surya. Uh, the it is sort of there is always the challenge of this is how we have done things here, and you just have to overcome that. So organizational change probably is the top five, right? So how do you drive organizational change, and how do you make uh, sort of all of these older institutions agreeable to you doing a new way of doing things, and obviously a change in velocity as well, a faster way of doing things. So I think those are the sort of key challenges on the sort of established incumbent front.
Hmm.
But otherwise, I think from a startup point of view, this is the data exchange, and this is the way forward. Right? API only companies are being built now, which are fantastic at understanding the sort of core feature that they want to expose, and enabling many people to consume it. So, over time, we will see more and more API only insurance companies come up, which will
Hmm.
find ways to deliver most of the insurance um, capability through APIs. So, if the incumbents don't respond or are slow to respond, I think you'll find more companies coming up with like the Cover Genius kind of model where effectively, they build their own reinsurer,
Hmm.
and then everything works at that level, and there's a local insurer just required for regulatory purposes. And I don't even know how long they'll be required for regulatory purposes, but they just it's a fronting insurer. They're there for regulatory purposes, but the entire risk and the entire system is being managed by the API provider.
Right, absolutely. So, coming from an investment viewpoint, as you are the best person to talk about it, um, have you in the recent past, or you plan to any sort of bring in or support any sort of an API investment to channelize the InsurTech startup worlds, particularly in the Southeast Asian part? I know there are a lot of traction happening in the African market. For example, in recent days, like I would say in last month itself, there was around $1.8 million was raised by an insurtech company in Kenya called the Lamy Technologies for API insurance. I mean platform management. So any ideas, any thoughts?
Right. I mean, there are a bunch of companies that are building APIs for the insurance world in Southeast Asia and India. Some of them have already been well funded. Obviously, Cover Genius is one of them. Um, Koala in Indonesia, Discovery in India. So that's those are distribution sort of first APIs.
Hmm.
I'm sort of excited by what sort of some of the companies that are more in the US at the moment, something like a Noyo, which is building, as I said, the API for aggregating employee benefits. There is, Bequest, which is building an API for life insurance. So I think some of these line-specific insurance companies will be coming up in Southeast Asia and India soon. And of course, we're always excited to talk to and look to fund API first companies. Having said that, at the moment, from our deal flow perspective, at least, there is much more activity on the fintech side. So,
Right.
obviously, things like APIs for cards, APIs for loans, APIs for accounts. That part is somehow has much more activity going on than APIs for insurance. But again, I think just a reflection that fintech is a bit ahead of the insurtech world.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for the fintech part. I know InsurTech is a part of the fintech as a whole, but it's more of the niche aspect. But fintech from the financial services standpoint is making a lot of buzz there. So, Shwetank, you also do a lot of write-ups like articles, blogs, and all. And I have come across one of your write-ups which you published in the year 2018, that how to collaborate with insurtechs. And this collaboration and partnership is one of the very significant area for any companies, be it a large multinational or anyone who is just starting up, to actually take advantage of instead of just a buyout or any sort of a starting from the scratch. So, and you have in your article mentioned there are a couple of points for this that starts with buy-in, money, the legal aspect, compliance issues, procurement, problem statements, evangelizing, security and IT, sourcing networks, due diligence. I think you've covered most of it in a very nutshell. Would you like to just uh, for our audiences just want to brief on this, and how do you think it's more the partnership part is applicable for the insurance industry from the
Yeah,
technology standpoint?
thanks for reading that article. So that was written while I was running MetLife Asia's Open Innovation Program,
Right.
and I think it was born out of frustration of the difficulty of doing partnerships that actually led to production. So I think we did a lot of pilots, but moving a pilot to production was like pushing a rock uphill. Um, so, if I was to summarize, right, I think what has happened is a lot of insurers have launched innovation departments, programs, accelerators, but this has been done without a view or internally thought through approach on how will actually that company from whatever identification to production. And a lot of this is done sort of, hey, let's see what's happening in area X, again without fully thinking through whether area X is of strategic importance. Are you willing to attach budget to it, etc., etc. So those are some of the pet peeves I have, or pet challenges I see with partnership programs run by large incumbent insurers. The the other part, of course, is that you have to become better at collaboration, because the best engineers don't work for you. The best, it's a given fact, right? In any market, the number of people working outside far more than the number of people working inside the organization. So if you can get better at collaboration, you will improve you improve your access to talent, improve your access to technology. So it just has to become a muscle that current insurers get much better at. And if I was to really summarize my learning from years of doing this at MetLife and then helping other companies like Prudential, and a couple of other insurers think this through, probably boils down to three sort of things. One is capital. So you have to make sure you actually commit money to pilots. And this has to be real money, not, that we will put $5,000 or $10,000 for a prize. It has to be something like $100,000, $200,000 implementation budget that's available, that you say, I will only spend this on implementing new technology, and you've earmarked it and put it aside. That raises the level of seriousness and makes everybody sort of realize that this is just not it's just not sort of optics. It's going to actually result in outcomes. So the second thing is employees. So a lot of programs are all about, hey, the startup will pitch and let's take a demo day and this and that. They don't engage rank and file employees in the day to day of the collaboration, in the day to day of being bought into the success of the collaboration. So how do you build a program from the ground up that actually engages all your employees and involves them in that program rather than just sort of them being sitting on the outside, or even worse, just thinking that it's for the innovation team only and it's not for them. And then finally is, delivered a sort of focus, and this is more for the innovation teams, focus on initial wins, right? Quick wins. You need some quick wins to be able to do the long term, truly transformational collaborations, but you need to start probably at something very quick, like, implement claims tech or implement some sort of agent tech so that you can show a quick win to your management, to the internal company. And again, that helps in creating that buy-in and giving you the runway to do really amazing things. So these are the three lessons I learned from my time at Met, as I try to build an innovation and specifically a collaboration muscle in that organization.
Absolutely. I particularly like the part how you have concluded it, because it holds so much of meaning that ultimately, I'm just quoting it from your article, ultimately, successful collaboration is about survival. I mean, that actually holds so much of value now, because, as you said, it has to be real even in terms of capital. But even keeping aside the capital part, all the partnership, areas, the elements that we look at has to be in real sense, because it's not just about, hey, we are forming a partnership. It has to be the survival, the journey that we're talking about. Fantastic read.
Yeah,
I think, yes, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I think the key thing is exactly the showing seriousness from your side. Make sure that you attract actually the sort of Series A funded or beyond startups, which actually have built the technology and are able to work at scale with a large insurer. Because otherwise, what ends up happening is you end up attracting sort of the idea stage guys who are 2-3 years or even 4-5 years away from being able to work at scale with their insurer, because it's an idea. It's still too early, right? They haven't figured out how to do security. They haven't figured out how to do the scaling part. So I think a lot of insurers still get collaboration completely wrong and view it more as a PR opportunity rather than as a core business risk and a core business requirement, requiring CEO attention and a well thought through strategy.
Very true. Very, very, very well put out there. Shwetang, just the last discussion point of our show today. If I have to tell you, just in couple of words, that investment in Indian insurtech, what would the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing comes to my mind is it's going to be the hottest topic for the next decade. We have, we have a insurance market that's ripe for significant growth as our incomes rise, as India becomes a $5 trillion economy, and the regulator is become much more receptive to technology, driving the sandbox. The government has made 74% ownership available in Indian insurers. So it's going to be the this theme coming out of India over the next 10 years.
Right. No, absolutely. Um, so yeah, due to the interest of time, Shwetang, I think there was some great thoughts there, and I thank you very much for this fantastic discussion and your ideas, your opinions for our listeners, and particularly for the startup world who are listening to this podcast. So it was a truly a delight to have you as our guest. And lastly, to wrap this up, thank you for listening and see you at our next episode. Take care, stay safe. Goodbye for now.